All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Thursday, 9/11 here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. And this is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns on All in Horns, presented to you by Rogue Sports Network. Today is 9/11, and always have to kind of remember that day for what it was. But just recently also had a pretty big, significant historical moment happened yesterday with the shooting and murder of Charlie Kirk. Jake and I are not political people. We're not going to get into politics. We're not going to share our politics here on this podcast. But at the end of the day, a husband passed away. A father was killed to a wife and two beautiful children. And so for something that, just sharing your beliefs, being outspoken, saying it with conviction, saying it with a purpose, saying it with a belief of that rubbed a extreme side of the opposite side of the aisle of what he believed on, it's a tough way for this country to look itself in the mirror and realize how wrong it is. And so, but yeah, again, this is not a political podcast. I don't think Jake and I have ever said a political word on this podcast. We keep it that way for a reason. But again, when historical moments happen in the country, today, a Remembrance Day, just odd timing, that, some things need to at least be brought to attention. And again, at the end of the day, this was a man with a wife and two kids who all he did was speak with passion and a belief of something, that just because if you did or did not believe in it or agree with it, the man didn't deserve to die because of it. So that's all I'm going to say on it. Jake, I don't know if you want to have a moment and speak on it, touch on it, but
just going to echo kind of what you said. I want to get to the football talk, and like you said, I'm not going to make any political statements or anything like that. That's not what this podcast is for. It's not what people listened for it for, but just a rough couple of days. If anyone had to see the video like I did, not wanting to, I'm sure it affected several others like it did me and kind of threw my whole day off. Just you don't want to flip on social media and see someone getting murdered. No matter what. And so, just a rough couple of days, but ready to talk some football and kind of get the mind on this weekend.
This is an escape platform, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm not sure if you heard all the news prior to what was happening yesterday, but the AP poller that came out, and she's not the only one, but the AP pollers are a little bit out of control. And talking about that, what was her name, by the way? Do I have it? Yeah, okay. AP voter Haley Sawyer on her voting. So every week, in case you didn't know, the AP poll comes out with the weekly college football rankings every single week. Well, they also release each voter and what their voting top 25 was, their individual top 25. And what it averages out to is what the AP voting poll is. Haley Sawyer had USF unranked, and also, while also keeping USF unranked, which wasn't the most egregious part, moved Florida up 2 spots after losing to USF. Her quote was, "I don't really want to go too much into my process or logic." That's because you don't have any. It's just really fun. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
Which is my biggest issue of all this, is instead of just owning up and go, I didn't watch the games, or I thought Florida won and I just was incorrect, I will fix this next week. Instead of just taking some accountability, tried to kind of deflect it, made their account private on social media, and then said it doesn't really matter in the end. If it doesn't matter, then the voting rights should be taken away. Give it to someone who actually cares. Give it to us. We'll even be unbiased about Texas.
So here's my thing. If you are an AP voter, and if I was an AP voter, what I do every Saturday is I would watch every game. I would watch every single game. That at the very least, the ones that mattered. If you don't want to watch, if you don't want to watch, let's trying to think of just a couple of random teams. West Virginia playing against Fresno State. That's fine. Those two teams aren't going to be ranked. But you know what? Fine. I can accept that. But if you're going to not watch a top 25, if you're not going to watch a top 50 matchup in the country, there's no reason in even having a vote. You should be watching every team that's playing in the top 50 just to have a good idea as to who's coming up, who's the best teams, who's playing the best, who's got the. You should be putting your eyes to it and actually be doing some research on it. And here's the devil's advocate to it. Does it matter? Maybe not, because I've always said, personally, the pollings shouldn't even be released until week 4, until we have a better idea as to who the top 25 teams are going into the season or in the year. Does it matter at the end of the year? Not technically, because technically there's a committee that makes their own top 25 rankings, and the committee chooses who the playoffs are going to be. So if it really doesn't matter at the end of the day, and you're getting people who are voting who think it doesn't matter, why are we doing it at all? Why don't we just not have polls whatsoever, or just have the networks, the media people rank the teams the way they want to for their matchups each and every week?
Yeah, and another voter who deserves a shout out is Chad Bishop, who moved Notre Dame from unranked to ranked after a bye week at number 8 in the country.
The fact he had him unranked in the first place.
Had forgot Florida State on last week's ballot, moved them up in this ballot, and then dropped Ole Miss from 19 to unranked for their win at Kentucky. No logic in a lot of these voters' polls.
And hey, here's my respect to a couple of them, because I think I saw 2 of them. I should have written their names down, but I'm sure I could find them real quickly. They had USF in the top 10. They had 2 voters that had them ranked number 10 in the country. That I actually somewhat respected.
Yeah, I mean, not all of them are bad. There's plenty that take their job seriously. The problem is the ones that are obviously not taking their job seriously get to still have that job. Because that having AP voter rights should be a privilege, not just a given.
Given to just some junior writer of saying, "Hey, we need to fill a spot for our AP polls that come out every week. Can you give us 25 teams each week, and we'll throw them up there?" And then you basically just base it off of what everybody else is doing, because there's no way that Haley Sawyer, what was her name again? Did I get that right? Haley Sawyer.
Right.
Yeah, there's no way she's watching these games or even notices what's going on in the college football
caring
world.
what they write down.
Yeah.
I mean, to move Florida up 2 spots after losing at home to South Florida and having South Florida unranked, there is no excuse, reasoning, anything that can back that up, other than maybe just saying you read the score wrong and just fessing up that you were wrong and then taking it more seriously moving forward.
I saw Florida. I didn't read South Florida, and I saw Florida, and I was trying to multitask, and I just flubbed it. But here's my other thing too, Jake, is the wishy-washiness between each week of, oh, well, we heard complaints about FSU, so let's all bump them up. Or, oh, we heard all the hate going towards this team, so let's drop down Bama, or whatever it is. It's like, okay, either you make the poll yourself and it's your own opinion and you're not listening to anybody on the outside, or it's the people's poll and just let the people vote or something. Like, you can't have the best of both worlds here. Like, either have some principles, have some standards. And I think there should be a not a strict, but at least some sort of guideline and standard of ranking these teams each and every year for the pollers.
Yeah, and when you're so clearly just lacking common sense, you should lose your position in voting.
And then they should give it to you and me, and we'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, or just anyone. I mean, there's so many people who would take that job seriously.
Well, and here's the thing too: there are people who don't receive a vote that should definitely get it, and it has nobody that's employed by the AP press. Like, the Associated Press they're just putting their own employees on these polls, and they're ranking them based on that. If they had just Why doesn't Herb Street get a vote? Why doesn't Chris Fowler get a vote? Why doesn't Josh Pate get a vote? Heck, even a Brandon Walker, someone, just people who are just entrenched in college football, and for a ranking can put all bias aside and come up with the top 25. There should be, people who are intricately involved in the sport itself coming up with these rankings.
Yeah, there needs to be standards. And luckily this year's the most I've seen discussion around specific voters. And because this has been an issue for not just this year.
Yeah.
And maybe highlighting it. And, some people are like, well, then it's going to draw hate their way. Well, maybe sometimes it's a little deserved at this point with this. Now, there will be people who take it too far. Yes. Yeah. But there will always be that with any issue in the world. But there needs to be heat on some of these people for not taking this seriously and literally saying it doesn't matter in the end when what you're doing does matter. It decides ranked wins. You're part of the vote. There's a reason there's an AP poll. It plays into the college football playoff, even though there's a committee that does a separate rankings. It still plays into it.
And they don't do their rankings until the end of the year, and they go based on ranked wins and strength of schedule, which is based on ranked opponents.
Yeah.
So it does influence the committee's polls, whether you like it or not, or whether you think it does or not.
And it influences where USF gets ranked. And that matters for a school like that, just from being able to say, hey, we're a top 10 team in the nation, or, something along those lines. Yep. And, people just forgetting teams out of polls and stuff. This shouldn't be something they're throwing together just willy-nilly. And so I'm glad it's being spotlighted, and hopefully some changes start to come from it.
No, I completely agree, Jake. Let's go ahead and move forward, and let's talk a little bit underdog for you today as I pull it up. Jake, you have your entry. Go ahead and discuss what you like while I pull up the live read.
Yeah. So I like any team against K-State to go higher on touchdowns. Knowing Fafita, the quarterback for Arizona, so I like him to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Feel like that's pretty low against a K-State defense that has really struggled. I like that. There. And then Ty Simpson to go higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns against Wisconsin. Wisconsin has looked dreadful. I think Alabama will be out to make a point against a Power 4 team, even though it's not a good Power 4 team. And then Haynes King, anytime I can get him higher on rushing and receiving touchdown, which just means rushing touchdowns for him for the most part. Yeah. I'm going to take that because he is used as a part running back essentially for that offense. And in a big game like Clemson, he's going to be using his feet as much as possible. I think Georgia Tech wins that game, and I think it'll be on the legs of Haynes King. So I like him to go higher than half a touchdown.
Yeah, this week on Underdog, I'm also looking at Haynes King over or higher than half a touchdown in that rush touchdown range. Joey Aguilar, the quarterback for Tennessee, I think he's going in like his third start for the Volunteers. This will be the first real test for Tennessee in that offense. I'd like to see him, or I think that he will go lower than 200 passing yards against this Georgia defense. Georgia's defense is not the problem in Athens right now. It's been the offense and the production that they've been able to put up. And then I'm looking at that Texas A&M Notre Dame game. I think Marcel Reed is going to have to use his legs for A&M to have success, so I'd like to see him go higher than 32.5 rushing yards. And then Jadarian Price, not Jeremiah Love, the other running back at Notre Dame that everyone seems to just bypass. Jadarian Price, I think, goes over 43.5 rushing yards on the day for Notre Dame. And I actually think it'll be a big rushing day for Notre Dame, regardless of who's carrying the ball. I like those numbers a lot. So with all that being said, Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Download the app today. Sign up with promo code HORNS to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That is promo code HORNS. Insert that, and again, you get $50 free of bonus funds when you play your first $5. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 18 years or older to play in the state of Texas, 19 years or older in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, which they have a variety of games, whether that's fantasy, pick'ems, higher, lower, all sorts of other fun entries that you can make. 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms do apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms for more details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. All right, Jake. One thing that I wanted to talk about today was kind of seeing where Arch lined up against some other notable quarterbacks in college football history. And I know he's only 2 games into his starting career. He did serve some games as the reserve backup for Quinn Ewers a season ago. But as the full-time starter, just kind of want to run the numbers on some opening starts and just put Arch Manning's start of his career into perspective for some fans that may be lacking some of that perspective. I want to compare him to probably the greatest college football quarterback to ever live, Joe Burrow. His junior year, he was a first-year starter at LSU in 2018. This is before the greatest season ever played by a quarterback. In week 1, they took on Miami. He went 11 of 24, 45% completion percentage, had 140 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. In week 2, not named Miami, but instead Southeastern Louisiana, went 10 of 20, 50% completion percentage, 151 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Southeastern Louisiana may be worse than San Jose State.
Yes.
I would also agree. Yeah. I think that's an FCS school.
I don't think that's a discussion.
Yeah. And then first week of conference, Jake, he went into week 3, took on Auburn, 15 of 34 through 44% completion percentage, 249 yards. In fact, 249 yards on 15 completions, actually kind of impressive. 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. So again, the start to Joe Burrow's LSU career as his first year as a starter, as 3 years, by the way. Now, yes, he spent 2 of those years at Ohio State before he transferred to LSU, but was in college football for 3 years, and those were his first 3 starts of his career and his first conference game.
And I think this is the best comparison to make, and not saying that means Arch is going to have a year like Joe Burrow did, but just from the standpoint of sometimes other comparisons are to freshmen, things like that. Arch Manning's been in college football a couple years, so people go, why is he more developed? Well, why isn't Joe Burrow, further along at that point? It's because you can develop all you want in practice, but when you get into a game, it's different. You can actually get hit. The speed is up a notch from practice. Everything's different.
You're not familiar with player tendencies like you are once you get into practice.
And I think, funny enough, I think if Arch just played decent against Ohio State, even if they lost, let's say Ohio State scored more points and they lost like 24-21, but Arch had a solid game. Nothing great, but a solid game. I think people would be saying the San Jose State game was just fine. But instead, every little thing gets dissected just because he didn't play well the first game. Going back on second watch, I actually thought Arch looked better than I initially thought, because guess what I was doing? I was dissecting every snap.
I thought his pocket presence was phenomenal. I thought it was really good.
And that was something we noticed right away. I mean, we talked about that in our instant reaction and everything. His pocket presence is an upgrade from last year. He just hasn't, hitting the easy stuff like Quinn did. The deep shot passing's actually been pretty good. He's just a little over 50% on passes 20+ yards down the field. I think he's like 7 or 8 of 14. A bunch of yards because it's 20+ yard passes. That's a much better clip than they were hitting in the last couple of years, which we expected because that was Quinn's weakness. But his, shorter to intermediate routes have struggled. So we just got to find that happy medium. We got to marry Quinn and Arch together and make the perfect quarterback if you just combine their 2 strengths.
No, I completely agree, Jake. I just wanted to bring up other quarterbacks. Again, like you said, it's kind of difficult to even compare him to Johnny Manziel. His freshman year, his Heisman Trophy winning season, in week 1, he went 23 of 30 against Florida, 76 completion percentage, 173 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And then I want to talk Colt McCoy, his freshman year. He took on North Texas, had a pretty decent debut, 12 of 19, 63%, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. But against Ohio State, a ranked opponent, his first ranked game, this one was at home, by the way, 19 of 32, 59%, 154 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That is nearly identical, exactly, stat by stat, of what Arch Manning did against Ohio State in his first road game against a ranked opponent. Peyton Manning, his freshman season, his uncle, yes, Peyton Manning back in the 80s, his freshman season as a full-time starter, he went 89 of 144 through 66 completion percentage, 1,141 yards, only 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Yes, I understand. It was a different day and age. They don't play the same systems like they do now in terms of high power. I just wanted to basically compare the development from one year to the next when I brought up Peyton. His sophomore year, he went 244 completions on 380 attempts. That's 64% for 2,954 yards, 22 touchdowns. That's double the amount of touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, 2 less interceptions from his freshman year. A little bit of time. Be patient.
Yeah, I mean, Colt McCoy's worst year of his career was his sophomore year.
Yeah.
And then everyone was done with McCoy, wanted him gone. And then he came out and lit the world on fire his junior year.
Javon Sneed. I'll never forget the calls for Javon Sneed were insane.
Yeah. And with a fan base like Texas, that as big as it is, that is as passionate as it is.
Passionate's a good word.
Yeah, passion's a good word there. I'm not going to use mean words. But you're going to get people who just are freaking out immediately. And like I predicted in the offseason, I said, if Arch struggles start the year, we're going to see some people that will just immediately give up on Arch, and then we're going to some people that question Sark's development. And those are the 2 biggest things I've seen out there. And to me, it's not just Arch struggling at times. It's an entire new offense. Yeah. And I think Sark's still trying to kind of figure out the offense. He's trying
to figure out the players that are playing for him.
He's trying to figure out what Arch likes, what gets him kind of going and into the game, which, decides the opening scripts, which, by the way, if you look at the opening scripts and people have said the opening scripts aren't good, go look at the plays. Go look at it is an execution issue. It is not a play call issue, because there is wide open stuff that's either not being thrown, being caught, and there's a penalty. It's just a assortment of execution errors. The more I've watched back these last 2 games, the less I have blamed the play calling. We pre-snap motion, I think, almost doubled from week 1 to week 2. And I think we'll see this pre-snap motion we saw against San Jose State continue the rest of the year. I think Sark was just a little hesitant to, and I think he maybe had to abandon his opening script in that first game a little bit too, by the way, because the first game, Arch Manning threw a javelin toss straight into the dirt to a wide open wide receiver down the field.
On the first play of the game. Yeah.
That'll make your coach a little bit hesitant on whatever he might have had drawn up. And he wanted to avoid a bunch of pre-snap penalties and issues on the road for a whole new starting team. Adding pre-snap motion only hurts that. Look at the Bears, who were trying to run Ben Johnson's full system and had a penalty, I think, every other play the entire game.
It's tough.
And so, I just want to see the continued growth. We saw growth from game 1 to game 2. I realize competitions lab, all that stuff, I realize. But I think we'll see a cleaner game this game. I think we'll see a lot less penalties. And I think we'll see the offense just start to gel a little more week by week. And it's got to start to come together quick, or you're going to get your butts kicked either at Florida, who I still don't overlook that game, or against OU right after that. But luckily, not only do you have 2 games still before that, you also have a bye week.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of time to mesh, but also something that we'll probably get to here in a second, they need to stay healthy because there is starting to be a growing list of injuries, and that hurts, being able to gel this whole thing together as well.
Yeah, go ahead and give some updates that you've got. I know DeAndre Moore comes out as a concussion. I doubt he plays. And then I think it was Alex January limited or no, Jack
Out.
injuries. Jack injuries was limited. I doubt we'll see him very often, but Alex January out for a second straight week.
Yeah, Jack Andre is going to be limited against UTEP, which I imagine means he's not going to play very much. Even though Texas has been using a lot of 12 personnel, their numbers in 12 personnel are really good this year. I think 12 personnel is going to become kind of one of the landmarks of this offense as the year goes on. And DeAndre Moore had a concussion that he suffered in that game, and so he is. I would guess he's going to be out.
I'm assuming
against UTEP.
Yeah.
And so that's DeAndre Moore's a tough one because you would like to see him get to start to mesh more with Arch. Even though we saw him work well with Arch last year, they haven't figured it out yet this year. Though he has had, to be fair, he's been open.
Sure.
There's been some missed passes to him. There's been penalties called back that took away big plays to him. So it's definitely not all on DeAndre Moore, but hopefully this means that they, I trust Arch to Livingston. I want to see, for me, the key to everything Saturday, and we'll do keys to the game later, but is I need to see Arch to Wingo. I need to see Wingo have a big game. I got to see that connection start to happen because we've said it multiple times this week. If that connection does not blossom, this offense will never come close to reaching its ceiling. It'll probably come much closer to lowering itself to its floor.
Yeah. Jake, in terms of pass catchers, Livingstone, injuries, Wingo, and more, who do you think leads the team in receptions?
It might be Jack Andres.
They all four have 6. It's just we talk about how they're not on the same page. Arch has actually completed the ball to them all the same amount of times. It's just the plays that have come out of it with injuries and Livingston. But you can tell the chemistry, obviously, and the trust factor that Arch is going to Livingstone in those moments, in those plays, seem to be, a little bit more on target. Because Wingo could probably have about 12, 13, 14 catches at this point in the season.
Yeah, if not
It's
for a couple
misses.
drops and then some misses from Arch. And I would also say that some of those completions, especially to Wingo and Moore, have been just quick, throw the ball out there, screen passes essentially. So those don't factor in. The downfield stuff has been to Andres and Livingston.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, I wouldn't be surprised if Sark really starts to try to force the issue on and he needs to. I don't care if it leads to less points. I don't want to see them score less points because they're shooting themselves in the foot with penalties and stuff. If they're doing it trying to work things out between Arch to Wingo and he's going to Wingo and it's not working out and they keep going back to Wingo, I'm fine if they don't score as many points. If they only score 38 points against UTEP, but they force the issue to Wingo until it got going, that'll be worth it. What I don't want to see is 38 points because you kept committing penalties and putting yourself behind the chains. Because it doesn't matter who you're playing against on defense. When you're 2nd and 20, you're just making it infinitely harder on yourself, especially when you're a very inexperienced group.
Well, and it changes the play calling to have success. You still want your team to have success and you still want to see successful plays for the offense so you have something to build upon. But when Sark has to abandon whatever his game plan is for that drive, and he has to call an audible in his head because there's a penalty, pushes him back 10 yards, and instead of it being 2nd and 3, it's now 2nd and 20. You're looking at a big change there in terms of just what you're trying to do with your offense. And so, anyway, we're going to get into the UTEP game for tomorrow's episode. We're going to get a deep dive into UTEP and talk more about them. And then we'll also give you some week 2 matchups that we like as well, just throughout the country. And of course, we always give you our final prediction come Saturday. All right, for Jake Jimerson, I'm Tanner Carlson. That's going to do it for today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. As always, very close to 800, guys. We just, for whatever, just hit a speed bump at 8 subscribers left until we get to 800. Find 8 of your friends, grandma, grandpa, cousins, uncles, aunts, coworkers. Get us to 8. Get us to 800. We need 8 more for 800. The magic number is 8. And then we'll be happy campers. So with all that being said, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. As always, ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.